sides, 2 quarters on this side, 2 quarters on that side, which turns out to be 4 sevens, which is 4 masters. So it's all about getting back to our own systems so that we can be self-determined and autonomous, and we can make all of those decisions at the leadership summits about who gonna settle where and how we gonna tribe up. We got the right to restore our cultural heritage any way we see fit without anybody's outside opinion even being given a fuck about. This is not about what they think or want us to do. It's about what we decide to do amongst ourselves at this point. We have to choose how we want to be as a people across the land.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
A lot of people's feelings is hurt because they believed for so long a thing was one way. And when you find out for the first time, damn, I got tricked. That's not the first thing that you feel, though. The first thing you feel is the anger and the resentment of the fact that you was tricked. Then the next thing that you feel is, I didn't mind finding out I was tricked, but why did it have to be this motherfucker to tell me? Because the person that they expect to see is not the person that appeared with the information to set them free. And so you don't look the part. They reject what you're saying as if you don't know what you're talking about.
I love that answer.
It's a response to cognitive dissonance in the negative.
It's almost.
But see, that's part of shadow work too, finding your self-identity. Can't nobody tell you who you is. If you let everybody tell you who you is, they're creating your artificial ego for you.
That part.
Because your ego is the sum total of everything anybody told you about you that you believe without investigating to find out if it was true.
That's right.
Oh man, people disagreeing with me. I don't think everybody supposed to agree on everything all the time anyway. We'd all be some fucking idiots. Only if you disagree and then you go to prove it wrong and you find out you prove it right, do you change your mind. Oh, I done been everything but a child of God.
Me too.
Right. And so,
I'm wrong because I asked the question.
Look, I feel like anybody got a right to feel and think however they want. That's their right. I just don't have to give a fuck. I never read that nowhere where because you don't like me, I have to be overly concerned about it. I don't care. I don't care. You're supposed to have your own perspective of your life, right? It just so happens that most people believe they have their own perspective, but they following some dogmatic pursuit somebody else gave them. I'm not following dogma.
Nisha had a question for you.
I'm following what's in my heart. My heart told me where I belong. Period. So they running into the paper genocidal construct, where they reclassified us under fictitious terms and alternate definitions of who we are as a people, so we would always disassociate who we are from the land. I know where my parents is from. I know what tribes are from those lands, so I don't care what they say. I know my history because my mom and my daddy told me my history over my lifetime, and my aunties and my uncles. They told all of the stories of the family that allowed me to reach back generations of information through the stories that they would tell. I don't need a DNA test to prove who I am. I said who I was. That's proof for me. It don't have to be proof for somebody else. When I tell a person I'm Mississippi clay dirt walking, that's because my people come from Mississippi. And I got a strong connection to the land in Mississippi. And my father's Canton, Mississippi. My mother's from Magnolia, Macomb, Mississippi. Most of those towns, Tylertown to Macomb, is built on my grandfather's actual own settlement. They carved it up and built cities on his land. I know who Hezekiah Jones, Johns was. So when they don't know who their ancestors was, they can't tie back in to the information because they disregard the word of mouth for the paperwork of the educational or miseducation system. So I don't follow that. I follow what my elders and my ancestors told me that's crossed over now while they was in the physical form, more so than what's written in the book. Africa was created by the Berlin Conference.
But the continent was there, but it wasn't called Africa. We've always, and I hope people understand, we've always been a tribal people. But these statuses and names through invasions and conquering and all this has been put on in different places.
Look, you remember earlier I said on the East Coast, we were marrying between the royal families of Africa for thousands of years. That landmass has always done trade with the tribes over here.
Okay.
We kept a lot of the African cultural traditions in the Gullah Geechee community because they the descendants of amalgamation of original people from this land and the people they did trade with from Africa. Some of the ones that we called Native Americans that was on the West Coast was due to us, the original tribes, amalgamating with the tribes that was from Asia when we did West Coast trade across the Pacific. If you don't know the pattern and the path that the enemy took when he got here, he will confuse you about these details. But the Chinese and the Japanese have a record of doing trade with the tribes over here and bringing brides from over there to over here. It's in their records. So we don't need the records from the settlers because we can go to China and get their records and they would gladly produce them.
How long has it been called Africa, Rod? Do you know that?
It was at the Berlin Conference. I think it was like 1780 something.
Right. But when the full continent was called Africa, was now in the 1800s.
Right. So at first, Africa was a region in the northern part of Al-Maghrib. It was only a region. Because of the war we was fighting against people from Al-Maghrib, and we go into this kind of war with them, they named the whole continent Africa in the Berlin Conference because that's when they, Ifraq in Arabic, they divided, Ifraq. They divided up the land. They divided up the land in the Berlin Conference, right? We didn't call it Africa. Over here, we used to refer to the land as the Afar Inca.
Okay.
The Afar Inca is a homonym for Africa. So we knew we called it Afar Inca, and we knew we had trade with people from over there as proven by Mansa Musa, right? And that his brother found it so heavenly over here amongst our women, he didn't want to go home. And he brought his spear of rulership to this land and presented it to the big mama over here.
But I'm hoping people, excuse me for interrupting, I'm hoping people are hearing you, that there's always been a connection.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, people are saying, like someone just said, that my great grandparents, it was called Africa at the time. Well,
because look, they wasn't, but great grandparents back is just when they named it that. They would have said they tried. They would have identified. And over there right now, the only time they identify themselves outside they tribe is when they're attaching it to the modern terminology for their country. Otherwise, if they talking to each other, they identify their tribe to each other. They know each other by tribes. But when they go out into the world, they have to use what the rest of the world has accepted as the norm. So they identify a tribe from this country, right? They don't identify themselves as Africans, even because they're going to tell you they Nigerian. They're going to tell you they from Swahili. I mean, from Tobago or Togo.
Of course, yeah. Even my
Algeria, Kenya. They're not going to say they Africans. So Africa is a broad contextual catch term to list every tribe over there. They don't agree with each other about their tribal origin, but each tribe is in a country they forced to accept by settlers, colonizers. They didn't divide the land up. They told us when they divided it up at the Berlin Conference, which made the Spanish-speaking Arabs and the Arab-speaking peoples that was in the conference call it Ifrak, the divided lands that was divided up in the Berlin Conference. You hear people talking about it was called Al-Qiwalan. That means the land before. Before what? It wasn't called, that's an Arabic term. So it must have been the land before the Arabs came. Or was it when the Arabs came before the Spanish came? What do it mean? What is it in reference to? Because the culture over there is very similar to the culture over here. When we name something, we name it based off of a trait or characteristic. Right? So what is it the land before? They calling it that now using the Arabic tongue to refer to the land was there before the settlers came, but we don't know their culture. So we assume that that's the accepted name of all of the tribes over there. Old maps got Sudan wrote across them and some of them got the Greek Ethiops written across it. That's Ethiopia and Sudan, which has been rendered only to two countries now. But at one time, the map had that scrawl, the navigator scrawled that across there, not me. Look, I never seen the person's DNA test say Moor.
Or Indian.
Oh, well, I've seen Indian on DNA tests.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, but I've never, not one time ever seen Moor on a DNA test.
I've seen Native American. I have never seen Indian.
Yeah, it's normally Native American / Indian.
Oh, okay. Is that what you Nisha, or was it just Native American?
No, what it said was indigenous. That's the indigenous.
Mm-hmm. So it probably depends on where you're getting the test from too. And then remember, it's for entertainment purposes, so they can alter the designations. If too many of us becoming aware, they'll alter the designation and change the meaning. It's for entertainment purposes only.
Say that again. They'll alter what? Say it again.
They'll alter the designation and change the definition.
Okay, so they're going to alter it when?
When they feel like it, because it's for entertainment purposes only. It's at their discretion. But as soon as we become hip to their games, then that's when they start trying to move pieces around. When they call us all those different terms, that's called a razzle dazzle. Noble Drew Ali said, man, is truth and falsehood strangely mixed. What is he talking about? All DNA tests is controlled from a central source because they got to go to what they call a data information bank.
I'm going to disagree on that one.
Ask yourself, where is the Africans getting the genome codes for the ones that's native and organic to this land? Where is they getting the genetic codes to the ones from Asia, from Australia, from New Zealand? All of this is in a central database. The central database is a supercomputer located in Geneva, Switzerland. This is where all of your internet connections feed to. This giant supercomputer is where it's the source for AI. It's called HAL 366. But it's really IBM. If you look at the words, they just move down the word. HAL is HAL, HIABLM, IBM. It's a code. They don't want us to know all of that, all of the educational data that's been controlled by colonists is still controlled until we take control of the entire system. If we don't take control of the system, what they say is the order of the day, what they say is the law, what they say is the rules, because they the ones that we responsible to get rid of. Their systems, the colorable law systems. When you start talking about DNA, there's a book called Mendelian Inheritance in Man that gives you the whole descriptive breakdown of the DNA, what genome holds what trait. It's all in the central database. All of the universities of the world is connected into a central database. So they might use a different way of testing. Instead of a swab of the mouth, they might use skin scrape. But when you go back to getting to the data that they're using, they have to have all of the genetic codes of the earth if they're going to tell you from a different part of the earth from over there. Otherwise, they would only have a collection of African DNA of Africans in Africa. So they have to branch out and get the codes that tells you whose DNA is what. And it's all for entertainment purposes. This the game of the gods, where deception is overcome. It is because it's a puzzle. It's the razzle-dazzle play. Look, David Copperfield gonna make a jet disappear in Vegas. We going to see it. Everybody on the way to go see David Copperfield illusion of making the jet disappear. See on the sign that they're calling David Copperfield the greatest illusionist ever known. And when we get there, we say, I'm not going to let him trick me of making me think the airplane disappear. Soon as he make the airplane disappear, we forget that he's the greatest illusionist in the world. And we start saying, how the hell he make that plane disappear? It was still just an illusion. And now we trying to figure out how he did it. He had to make that plane disappear. It was an illusion. He told you that. They told us in Morals and Dogma that they was going to give us a whole lot of dogma to override our moral compass that's going to tell us where to be located on the land. They gave us the whole layout of the playout of their entire system in Morals and Dogma and in Protocols of Zion. The Protocols of Zion told us exactly how they was going to keep us conquered. They was going to control economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
And it happened.
And they the ones been feeding us all the doctrinal information on those subjects since they've been here. So, of course, when we start getting into the health arena, which I call the 10th one, they're going to control that narrative too. That's why pharmaceutical companies write all of the medical books, finance all of the medical institutions. They're not working for us. If they ain't working for us, who the fuck they working for? It's a plutocracy. It's a big old monopoly game in the game of the gods. I'm just telling y'all how the game plays so y'all can see through their bullshit. Right? The Flying Kings landed on the chessboard. But they ain't know where they can go because it's the queen stationed in every corner. And the queen run the chessboard. She can move in ways that the rest of the pieces can't move.
The same way they did with religion.
Religion was one of their tools.
One of their tools. Same thing.
It's fall right under that category. Thanks. Shout out to Dr. Neely Fuller for making it clear.
And we're all being played like a piece on a chessboard or a checkerboard or something. We're just being played.
So the fact that we intermarried with people from Africa on the Eastern Shoreboard for thousands of years, many of the people from the Eastern Shoreboard genetic memory gonna call them back to Africa. But all of us is not gonna be called back to Africa through genetic memory. Only the ones who have to be over there to activate a birthright. Now, some of us is gonna be deceived over there and become food for wolves, or I should say hyenas. Because the false narrative, if you don't rise above that bullshit, you will be led anywhere in the world, just like Jim Jones led all them people to Guyana and had them drinking the coffee or the Kool-Aid, right? Because they had no self-identity because they was absorbed in the doctrine of the dogma of the church. So the leader of the church lead them wherever he want to lead them, straight to their own